So you want to retire at 55, pay off the house, walk away from the job for good, spend your Tuesdays exactly how you want to spend them. That's the picture almost everyone starts with, and on paper, a lot of men get there looking ready. A paid-off house, a retirement account, with a number that finally has 6 figures, maybe 7. Social Security waiting in the wings for later. That should be enough. That's what 40 years of working for it was supposed to buy. And yet, a retiree following the standard 4% withdrawal rule now carries something close to a 1 in 10 chance of running out of money before 30 years are up. Not because he didn't save enough, but because of something that has nothing to do with the size of the number in the account. But before we dive in, follow this channel so you don't miss our weekly episodes. So, here's the question nobody asks before handing in the notice. If the number in the account looks big enough on the day you retire, why do some men with that exact number end up fine, while other men with the identical number, saving the identical way, run out with a decade left to live? Picture the morning after. No alarm. Coffee on the porch. It feels like freedom. And for the first year or two, it usually is. Except somewhere in year 3 or 4, a statement arrives that looks nothing like the plan. And the strange part is it's almost never, because the number was wrong on the day he retired. Most men walk into retirement assuming the hard part was the saving. Hit the number, pay off the debt, contribute for decades. None of that is what actually decides whether the money lasts. The thing that quietly eats a retirement account alive isn't the spending, and it isn't the market on its own. It's something almost every early retiree underestimates by a wide margin. And by the time he understands it, the portfolio has usually already taken damage that can't be undone. Here's the thing that isn't in most retirement calculators. 2 men retire on the same day. Same amount saved, $1 million each. Same withdrawal plan, $50,000 a year. Same investments, same average return over the following 30 years, down to the decimal point. One of them finishes richer than he started, by a wide margin. The other one runs out of money completely, with years still left to live. The only difference between them is the order the returns arrived in. According to research published by Fidelity, a retiree who experiences a run of positive returns early in retirement, followed by a bear market later on, can see that same $1 million portfolio grow past $3 million after 30 years, even while withdrawing $50,000 a year the entire time. Flip the order. Negative returns hit first, a downturn right at the start of retirement, followed later by the exact same average return over the full 30 years. That portfolio doesn't finish at $3 million, it runs out completely. Depleted by year 27, 3 years short of 30, spending the identical amount, earning the identical average. Same math on paper, completely different retirement in practice. This is called sequence of returns risk, and it is arguably the single most misunderstood threat in retirement planning, because it has nothing to do with how good an investor you are, and nothing to do with your average return over time. It has everything to do with what order the good years and bad years show up in, and that part nobody controls. Here's why the order matters so much. When the market drops in year 1 of retirement, and you're still withdrawing your $50,000, you're not just losing money on paper, you're selling shares at the bottom to fund your withdrawal, which means fewer shares are left to participate when the market eventually recovers. Every dollar withdrawn during a downturn is a dollar that never gets to ride the recovery back up. Research from Charles Schwab's Center for Financial Research puts a hard number on how punishing this gets. Picture two retirees, both hit with 15% portfolio drops in their first 2 years of retirement, both starting with $1 million, both withdrawing $50,000 a year, and both earning 6% annual growth once the market stabilizes. The only difference, one of them dials back to a 2% withdrawal rate after the early losses. The other holds steady at 4%. The math from there isn't close. The retiree who cut back to 2% needs roughly 11.5 straight years of 6% gains to get back to where he started. The retiree who kept withdrawing at 4% needs almost 28 straight years of the same 6% gains to recover. 11.5 years versus 28. That gap is not a rounding error. That's the difference between recovering well inside a normal retirement and never fully recovering at all. And here is the number that should genuinely change how you think about the years right around retirement. Research by retirement economist Wade Pfau has found that the compounded returns in just the first 10 years of retirement account for roughly 77% of the entire final outcome over a full 30-year retirement, not the middle decade, not the last one. The first 10 years, right when most men feel like they've already done the hard part, are doing almost 80% of the work in determining whether the plan succeeds or fails. Before we even get to the market, there's a decision most men retiring at 55 rush through without realizing how much it costs. Medicare doesn't start until 65. That's a full 10-year gap where health coverage has to come from somewhere else entirely, and it is rarely cheap. COBRA continuation coverage, or a private marketplace plan, for a 55-year-old and a spouse, commonly runs well into 5 figures a year once premiums, deductibles, and out-of-pocket maximums are added together for 10 straight years before Medicare ever kicks in. Multiply that out across a decade, and the number becomes one of the largest line items in the entire retirement plan, larger than most men's mortgage ever was. This is the equivalent of the card processing fee that independent business owners never see coming until they read the year-end statement. It's not dramatic in any single month. It's brutal cumulatively, over 10 years, if it wasn't priced in from day one. Let's be precise about what actually causes the damage, because this is where most men misunderstand the risk entirely. It is not the market crash itself that wrecks a retirement plan. Markets crash, they have always crashed, and they have always recovered. Still contributing to his 401k, barely notices a crash in the long run. He's buying more shares at a discount, and time does the rest. What actually causes permanent damage is withdrawing money from a portfolio while it is already down. Every withdrawal made during a downturn lock in a loss that would otherwise have been temporary. The shares sold to cover that year's spending are gone. They don't get to participate when the market eventually bounces back, because they're no longer in the account. Morningstar's most recent research puts real numbers on how tight this margin has become. At a standard 4% withdrawal rate, a moderately allocated retirement portfolio now carries close to a 10% probability of failure somewhere across a 30-year retirement. Push equity allocation higher, above 50% in stocks, and the math tightens further still, supporting a withdrawal rate closer to 3.9% for a 90% success rate. This is not a reason to avoid the stock market. It's a reason to understand exactly when, in retirement, the market's mood matters most. And the answer, again, is right at the start. Consider a real historical example. A man who retired in 1972 at 65 walked directly into the 1973 to 1974 bear market, one of the worst of the 20th century, where the S&P 500 fell approximately 48%. A man who retired just a few years earlier or later, with an identical portfolio and identical spending habits, experienced a completely different retirement. Not because he was smarter, but because of when he happened to retire. Here's what this actually looks like when it happens to a real man in a single ordinary year, rather than a chart on a screen. He retires at 55 with $1 million, feeling confident. 2 years in, the market drops 20% in a single year. Not a historic crash, just an ordinary correction. The kind that happens every 5 to 7 years on average. That same year, his wife needs a procedure that isn't fully covered before their out-of-pocket maximum resets. That same year, his adult daughter goes through a divorce and needs help with a down payment on a smaller place for her and the kids. None of these 3 things is rare on its own. A market correction happens regularly. A health issue at this age is common. A family member needing help is, if anything, more likely in your 50s and 60s than at any other point in life. Together in the same 12 months, withdrawing to cover all 3 while the portfolio is already down 20%. That's not a dramatic once-in-a-lifetime disaster. That's an ordinary bad year, and an ordinary bad year, positioned in year 2 of retirement, instead of year 22, can quietly cost a retirement plan a decade of financial security it never fully gets back. Now compare that to the version of this same man who works 5 more years and retires at 60 instead of 55. 5 additional years of contributions at peak earning power. 5 fewer years the portfolio has to fund before Medicare eligibility closes most of that healthcare gap. And critically, 5 more years of history behind him before he starts making any withdrawals at all. Meaning, whatever market conditions greet him at 60 are simply a different roll of the dice than the one that greeted him at 55. This isn't a universal argument that everyone should wait until 60. Plenty of men retiring at 55 do it successfully, with careful planning around exactly the risks in this video. But the 5-year gap is not a minor detail. It's the single biggest lever available to reduce sequence of returns risk without changing your investments, your spending, or anything else about the plan at all. So let's run the 2 versions of this retirement side by side, starting from the identical number, and see what retiring at 55 actually looks like in practice. Same $1 million, same $50,000 annual withdrawal, same average return over 30 years, on paper, down to the decimal. In the optimistic sequence, strong returns in the first several years, giving the portfolio room to grow before any downturn arrives. That $1 million can finish 30 years later, worth more than $3 million, according to Fidelity's own modeling, even after 3 decades of steady withdrawals. In the difficult sequence, a downturn hits in the first 2 or 3 years instead, before the portfolio has had any time to build a cushion. That same $1 million, same withdrawal rate, same eventual average return, runs out completely by year 27, 3 years short of the 30 it needed to last. Same starting number, same discipline, same average return. A completely different retirement decided almost entirely by which years happen to be good and which happened to be bad, and whether the plan was built to survive either order. So, the next time the number in the account looks big enough to retire on, remember, the size of that number was never the whole story. The real question was always what happens if the bad years show up first instead of last, and whether anyone built the plan to survive it either way. If this gave you something real, subscribe. Share it with a man in your life who could use a straight conversation about money, and I will see you in the next one. This is the Reserve Man.